Hello, I wanted to throw my hat in the ring at ranking the Call of Duty games, because I have kind of a long history with Call of Duty. In fact, my first ever competitive gaming experience that drew me down the path of esports was when I was like 12-ish, playing Call of Duty money matches on ESL. You know, I like that was my side hustle as like a kid, or like in high school just in general, was be like, oh, I got $50, let me go on ESL and be like, 1v1 me, $50. Anyway, I've also actually played the original 3 Call of Duties. Most people just chuck these like down here because they're like, ew, old legacy. Call of Duty 1 does actually deserve to be down here. It's the first game of the franchise. It's extremely archaic and doesn't really work anymore on modern machines. It is all kinds of bad. However, the big red one, you have me fucked up. If you've ever actually... This is how you can separate the people who are just talking about it, just making assumptions, versus people who've actually played the games. Because the big red one actually has a really good story, and Call of Duty 2's multiplayer wasn't fucking terrible. Same with Call of Duty 3. It's not... The campaign's nowhere near as good as the big red one, but this is when they really started to figure out the multiplayer. It had that snappy, arcadey style. It completely started moving away from, like, what would become Medal of Honor style gameplay. So, I think these are pretty fair rankings for the original 3. I don't have a whole lot to say about them because they do play like any PS2 World War II shooter. But what made Call of Duty different and special, at least with the original 3, is that the campaigns were actually good, for the most part. And the fast-paced arcade gameplay resembled Quake more than, you know, anything else that, like the Halos that were coming out around this time. Alright, now this is what everybody wants to actually hear about, I'm sure. Modern Warfare 1. A lot of people would put this game up here, but I think that's delusional nostalgia talking. It's definitely good. It's definitely good. Okay, hold on. Let me fix something. Let me actually rate the tiers left to right, because people had that mistake with the zombies thing. I was just kind of throwing them in tiers. Call of Duty 4, I'm not willing to give things legacy points either, by the way. I don't give a fuck, for the most part, about, like, traditions or legacies that get started between some of the games. But Call of Duty 4 had really bad balance because it was the new era of COD. And I'm sorry, but I can't put this game in S tier because of how fucking bad the balance was. The M4 one-bursting people to the chest from just about any distance was atrocious to deal with. Like, you think fucking Jug silenced MP40 was bad? Nah. No way, dude. No. Seriously. I just want you to imagine if this came out today. If they released Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, the 2025 edition, and there was a 3-round burst gun that had like a 0.3 second time to kill without even getting a headshot, people would go fucking ballistic. They would lose their fucking minds. But that was actually just the reality of COD 4. The campaign was pretty good. There's nothing special, nothing to write home about. Alright, now, this is pretty easy, because the biggest multiplayer offense that World at War had was Jug silenced MP40. But man, considering how, like, there were so many hard counters to that, bouncing Bettys, tanks, snipers, shotguns, like, there was a lot that fucking countered that. The only reason why, and the reason why I don't view that as, like, this huge flaw, like the M4 in COD 4, is because they recognized that people are fucking garbage, frankly. It's not until this era of COD that the average, like, gamer was... Let's put it this way. If you took the average 1.0 KD, like, 14-year-old in MW2 now and dropped him back in this era, he would probably have, like, a fucking 4.0 KD. The average player now that isn't, like, uber casual, so yeah, I'm probably talking to anyone who views this video, if you time warped back 15 years, you would probably be, like, in the top 100 best players in the world. because that's just how skill progresses, like, on aggregate. It's like the local maxima of skill. Anyway, the campaign for this game is the only Call of Duty campaign that is worth talking about in any serious regard. It is so good that it redefined how people thought about war stories. People who were not, you know, like Saving Private Ryan, like, or novel people whose primary way of consuming these kind of stories was through video games. So a lot of kids. There is a famous quote that I think describes World at War beautifully. And I forget who said it because, frankly, names fade, but ideas live on forever. It's that if a story about war leaves you feeling anything other than despair, hopelessness, just anger at the futility of war. I'm taking some liberties on the quote, by the way, because I don't remember the whole quote, just the idea, because the idea is what stuck with me. You know, any war story that doesn't leave you walking away feeling just distraught at how war is and that we could do this to one another they've lied to you in some capacity. That's the idea of the quote, is that war is fucking horrific. It is horrible. It is the worst thing humans can do to one another. And it's like bottom 3 worst things. So if somebody calls for war, some politician, they are either genuinely, truly evil, or they are so arrogantly ignorant that their ideas aren't even worth discussing. It is so impossible for war to be truly justified. Like, stopping the Nazis, that's justified. But, like, you know, stopping terrorist cells causing a ground war in the Middle East is completely... I'm sorry, traumatizing a generation of people because what? It's like 10,000 insurgents at most? Like, no way. Get the fuck out of here. This also started zombies, and the zombies, for the most part, wasn't completely dog shit like some later games that I'm going to talk about. So it had pretty solid multiplayer, the best campaign in the entire franchise, and it started the tradition of having a spin-off mode. And I know I said I wouldn't give points for tradition, but when the tradition is it adds 30% more content to the entire game, it just makes the game a better package to buy overall. And the thing that it added was also good in the game that it was in. That's not just like nostalgia legacy points, that's like actual value. Alright, this is where these 2 games I know I'm about to piss people off. And I just want you to be mindful. I am a competitive, you know, esports. I will casually go play like an ESL Open Cup, you know, that has like $20 on the line kind of person, just for fun. Modern Warfare 2 is not an S-tier game. And the people who say it is they either do not care about game balance, or they are massively blinded by nostalgia. Because do I need to remind you, NoobTube, One Man Army Pro, that kind of thing? The laundry list of shit that's broken in this game is kind of hard to comprehend. And I will say this. In its era, this game was S-tier. Because when we were all kids and weren't tryharding and like didn't know what was going on, then the game played much better. But if you objectively look at it, then things like NoobTubes are just free kills. Danger Close, One Man Army. There is literally no reason not to start every single round doing like, you know, NoobTube, Semtex, One Man Army into the actual class you want to play. Another thing that you can tell people who like understand the game versus people who are like, you know, just ultra casuals trying to have a good time, which there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Just, I don't think your assessment of quality really matters if that's your, you know, all you're doing. Anyway, is the Model 1887 versus the AA-12. The AA-12 had like the same one-shot distance as the Akimbo Model 1887, but it was fully automatic. Yeah, this game allowed you to have a fully automatic shotgun that had the one-shot distance of like, you know, where like a 3-burst headshot would happen, or you know, like where the FAL, like it's like 2-shot to the chest distance. Okay, let's put it this way. You know, remember like the Akimbo snake shot revolvers in, you know, MW2? The distance where you would have to hit most of your pellets in both of those to one-shot, like the far end of that, was just the standard one-shot range for a fully automatic shotgun that could go into your secondary slot. Like, just imagine if that was released today. And then another thing is dropping nukes in this game. People love to talk about how back in the day they would go, yeah, listen, again, as somebody who would play at a competitive level, money on the line, I can tell you, going into a queued up lobby and getting a nuke is genuinely, it's like 50% chance it's going to happen. Because at the end of the day, you get anywhere from 1 to 3 kills on average for free, starting with the noob tube, then swapping into the class you actually want. The Claymore is usually a free 4th kill. At that point, you're only 3 kills off of Harriers, and getting those 3 kills with something like the AA-12, which just one-shots people around a corner, or any, thing like UMP, getting 3 kills like that is genuinely not difficult. And then when you consider that the Harrier's probably going to get, like, at least 1 kill minimum, probably 2 or 3 kills, so you're only, like, 2 kills off of the chopper gunner, and from there it's basically guaranteed you get a nuke. Like, there is a clear progression path to where you only actually have to get, like, 5 or 6 kills that pose any danger of getting you killed when going for a nuke, at least back then. So your nostalgia really blinds you to how good this game was. On the other end of the spectrum, MW3 was just better than Modern Warfare 2, just by a large margin. Because everything about this game was just better designed. The weapons were not nearly as busted. I should also talk about maps, but basically all 4 of these games, the map pool is pretty amazing. There's a few standout stinkers, but like there's, stuff like Terminal is so good, it keeps fucking coming back today. But I'm not gonna really have much to say about maps until we get, over here. Anyway, Modern Warfare 3, things like Specialist, things like not allowing, certain kill streak packages to lead to the next one, as not fun as you may think it is, it did lead to a much more playable game. Score streaks as well were also a great idea. That way people weren't punished for playing the objective. Like, Modern Warfare 3 is just more refined. You can tell a lot about someone, by the way, their opinion on these 2 games. I watch a good few of these tier lists where people will usually flip these 2 games because this game is more balanced. But, like, I think too much balance is a bad thing. I do not think a balanced game is inherently good, because the ultimate balanced game is a game where both people are gray blobs with the same 5 abilities that have the same numbers tied to them and work the same way. That's a perfectly balanced game. Like Ryu vs. Ryu is perfectly balanced. So Modern Warfare 3 is that good level of balance where there's still clearly good items and bad items, and there's clearly good strategies and fun meme strategies that just kind of suck. We haven't reached that point yet where everything is around the same level of effectiveness, so everything just kind of blends together. But, oh yeah, the prestige system as well. Prestige tokens making their entrance, which just basically stuck around forever. Yeah, Modern Warfare 3, like, if you had to boot up one of these 2 games, or here's another way to think about it. If these games released today, you would almost certainly have more fun playing Modern Warfare 3. If you had to deal with the current generation of everyone being a massive sweatlord, like, tryhard, then Modern Warfare 2 would get so, like, fucking abused that it would not be fun to play. Literally, half the people in the game would start the round off with a noob tube. And it would just be a miserable experience because people optimize the fun out of games. And Modern Warfare 3 cut a lot of that bullshit out. Okay, Black Ops 1. Yeah, this campaign was surprisingly good. The zombies was getting there. The game is somewhat still playable today. It's got some connectivity issues, but you can still turn it on and play it for the most part. And the multiplayer in this game is one of the best there is for Call of Duty. I think they made a few better ones. Yeah, honestly, I would put this above Modern Warfare 3. it's just really hard to beat Black Ops 1. Because for the most part, it is a shockingly well-balanced game. And I think a lot of that has to do with putting assault rifles front and forward. Can I just go on a little tangent for a second? A huge part of the problem with modern Call of Duty is this incessant need to make everything balanced. And they do not put assault rifles front and forward. I think to make a really good, solid Call of Duty game, you need to say, like, you need to have a design paper that everyone at every level of the team is on board with this. Assault rifles are the star players. They are going to be above average, so they should be just slightly better than everything else in almost every other category. That way, people are lightly pushed towards using them. Because at the end of the day, assault rifle gameplay in Call of Duty leads to the most fun and interesting matches. Is it fun to get quickscoped? No, it is not. You turn a corner, some guy hits a quickscope on you, you instantly died. That's not fucking fun. You turn a corner, you instantly die to a shotgun, like, as soon as you react to the person being there. That's not fun. Some guy just, every time he dies and he respawns, he just spams out 2 RPG shots. That way, if you're not running, like, Bomb Squad, he's probably gonna kill at least 1 guy per life, and that guy had nothing he could do about it. Like, that's not fun. So making it so that, like, things like assault rifles are just as balanced as everything else means that when something does stand out as being, like, annoying to deal with, it can overtake things that are actually fun. See, a well-balanced or a sweat-fest game doesn't have to be not fun. You just need to hone in on what makes the game balanced and decide that's what we're gonna make the best thing in general. And that's what Black Ops 1 did. It looked at assault rifles and said, this is where people tend to have the most fun, so we're going... Because think about this. It's also fun when everything's viable. As much as bad players love to, like, scrub quotes their scrub mentality about campers, camping should be viable, rushing should be stronger. It should be easier. Okay, a bad player should find more success camping, but a player who wants to genuinely get good at the game should at first struggle when they don't camp, but eventually find more and more success the more they break out of that. And again, that's what assault rifles push you towards. Whereas things like shotgun push you towards holding a corner. All right, but yeah, Black Ops 1 is a very well-designed game, and I really like it. What a fucking long-winded way to say that. However, Black Ops 2 is just a straight fucking upgrade to Black Ops 1. The campaign it's up there. It's probably the second best campaign there is. The zombies, we're almost at peak zombies. And holy fuck, I think this is peak multiplayer. Literally every strategy is viable. The kill streaks have not reached a point where they are just completely revolving, like everything revolves around UAV. You know, we haven't quite reached that level yet. You can actually still have some fun picking, like, killer kill streaks because they haven't reached its, like, stupid levels yet. I think Black Ops 2 is peak Call of Duty, and I think it is the greatest Call of Duty of all time. It took the fun ridiculousness of Modern Warfare 2, the balance lessons that they learned on Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 1, and it condensed it all into one package. Because the game is faster paced than Black Ops 1 and Modern Warfare 3, but it's not as ridiculous as MW2. It has the pace of gameplay as MW2, but not the ridiculous everything in this game fucking one-shots you before you even react to it. You also don't have to kill, like, effectively 5 people to get a chopper gunner that just dominates the match and turns it into a one-sided slugfest. Yeah, Black Ops 2, it's also very innovative, because as much as you may bitch and moan about things like thermals and smokes, this game kind of started that whole, like, that is genuinely good for the game. Because one guy with an LMG with thermal and a few smokes in his kit, able to lock down one lane. Look, if you complain about that kind of thing, you are dog shit. I'm sorry, you are a scrub. You are an ultra-casual retard scrub. Because let's say I'm playing with like 3 or 4 people and we want to actually try to win the game. Locking down a lane like that is a great way to give your team a decisive advantage. And it's easy to play around because if someone's doing that, let's put it this way, if you find yourself dying to that a lot, you're just a fucking idiot. And I know the average Call of Duty player isn't the brightest, because I'll kill them, like I'll camp and kill them, and the same person will try to run in, like just from the only other entrance, thinking I don't know this is Call of Duty and people are emotionally driven idiots in this game. And even though I have every advantage in the world, I know they're gonna run at me 3 times because they're gonna be like, I know on the other end of the internet, it's either some white trash or some like black teen that's like, come on, bro, this fucking bitch is camping, bro. I'm gonna run in there and get him this time. And then he doesn't. And then when he respawns, he's gonna be like, God, dude, this fucking pussy's camping. And then he's gonna run in again from the other direction. Like, come on, I've played the game long enough that I know you're gonna do that. So when I see people complain about someone using a quote-unquote cheap tactic, when the tactic is just fucking, like, it's not one-shotting you, you just keep running into the same thing over and over again, yeah, it's like, whatever, dude, you're an idiot. Black Ops 3, so I'm feeling a strong, like a high A tier or the bottom of S tier. I'm just gonna drop this for now, but hold on, I've not decided in my head yet. Because this is peak zombies, but the multiplayer, I hated specialists. Because not only were they stupidly imbalanced, they were just a bad idea. Later games would do specialists much better as a recharging, like, minor thing. But god, dude, like, remember the robot? Charge up his specialist, and then he just, like, gets a free death machine? And he gets, like, 4 of them throughout the round? Like, come on, dude, you cannot tell me it is very fun or well-balanced that throughout the game, 6 people are likely gonna pop 2 instant kill AoE abilities twice. Yeah, I don't think I can give this game S tier. I don't think I can. Just specialists were really badly designed. And then this is when you started getting into where shotguns are a real problem. Because this is when the era of people starting to do things like fucking, remember the controller mod Brecci, like that kind of shit? You know, like, this is when we started moving into that era where like 25% of all lobbies were populated by a fucking cheater that had a controller mod, like, oh, like, I forgot to mention it, but like controller mod FAL, by the way, I just want to mention this, if you were the kind of person who used a controller mod, you should have been banned. I'm sorry, but like the FAL is statistically the best gun in the game if you can fire it quickly. And if you use a controller mod to full auto it, you're such a loser. Like, I just can't, like, you have to be genuinely like a school shooter level loser to cheat in Call of Duty. Because you're playing a game that's primarily filled with casual dad gamers, and you're like, I'm gonna make these people's lives miserable by cheating. And I mean, it really shows nowadays with like half the fucking lobbies at higher MMRs having people like zimming and shit. Anyway, yeah, I just think Specialist ruined Black Ops 3. The advanced movement was pretty cool. It added a lot of skill to how you move, and it really made camping not viable. But I don't like that. I think camping should be less effective, but should still be viable. Especially because it's just good for worse players, frankly. And holding down angles leads to a much more just intelligent game overall. Because if everybody is cracked out running around like it's Quake, you know, it changes the game. It makes it no longer Call of Duty. It makes it like Quake with fucking fast time to kill because you're too bad to actually play Quake. Okay, so now that we're out of the golden age of Call of Duty, Ghost was fucking trash. I really hate Ghosts. The campaign was retarded. Extraction and Extinction were not very good. They were okay, like they were serviceable, but they were not good. But what pisses me off about this game was the multiplayer. So here's something that really bad players, and I do not care about your opinion. This is where I get to turn into a toxic elitist for a second. So just hear me out. I actually got paid, both in just beating people money matches and esports, like contracts stuff. I actually got paid because of my understanding and skill at video games. You are some random scrub who dies a lot in Call of Duty. I do not care that you think you're like crazy hot shit. But so when I say this, and hold on, let me pull this up because I actually have evidence for this. the faster the time to kill, like the less amount of time to kill something takes, the less skill it takes. Things like shotguns, things like... Okay, here it is. And if you don't want to take my word for it... What? They took the article down. It's right here. Increasing time to kill will hurt lower skilled players. Hold on. COD dev interview. Increasing TTK will hurt lower skilled players. This is something that everyone... Yeah, like right here. I told you, I'm not making this up. Like there, and look, they even fucking reiterated on this. This is something that they talk about all the time. So I do not care what anyone has to say. Everyone in the esports scene knows this. Everyone in the game design field of like jobs knows this. The higher the time to kill, the longer it takes to kill someone, the more skill a game takes. First off, that's why Halo always took more skill than COD. Like, that was one of the big reasons. Second off, why do you think like some of the best FPS players of all time come from games like CS or Quake? Dude, you know time to kill in Quake is like 3 seconds, right? And that is widely regarded by just about everyone as the OG, like, granddaddy hardest FPS of all time to, like, play at a high level. Whereas, when you have things like instant kills in Call of Duty, it's just incredibly low skill. It does not take skill to shoot someone with a shotgun the moment they turn a corner. I'm sorry, it doesn't. And if you think it does, you have massive ego problems. You just can't admit that, like, what you're doing, you know, you want to tell yourself you're better than you actually are. Because if you sat down and played a game like Quake, or like CS, or any game that doesn't have, like, and I'm not talking about headshots, because headshotting in CS, dude, it takes more skill to manage recoil in CS than it does to go on like a 10 kill streak in COD most of the time. So like actually like killing someone with body shots in CS is so much harder than just about anything you can do in Call of Duty that it's like, ugh. But I'm bringing all this up because Ghost has the lowest TTK in the franchise. There are like SMGs and assault rifles in Ghost that can kill you like as fast as you can blink with just body shots. It is ridiculous. Ghost is a scrub's paradise. When someone tells me that Ghost is actually underrated, I'm like, okay, you're probably pretty bad at Call of Duty. Because another thing, Ghost had like no footstep audio, so the insanely low time to kill. Like, seriously, you've got guns that shoot at, like, fucking 900 rounds a minute and kill in, like, 2 to 3 shots to the chest. It's insane. But, the insanely fast time to kill mixed with the virtually inaudible footsteps. Dude, if you thought Modern Warfare 2019 was a fucking camper's paradise, Ghost was, like, insane. And I don't give a shit about any other game mode in Ghost. The multiplayer is what people play Call of Duty for, let's face it. And the multiplayer in Ghost was so fucking bad that it was atrocious. There is a reason. You know, like, Call of Duty's usually hang on to a player base for at least 2 games after it comes out. Bro, the moment, like, the next COD came out after Ghost, that shit was dead. It was a ghost town. People could not wait to get off this fucking game. Advanced Warfare. This game's not that bad. This game is massively overhated. Advanced and Infinite Warfare, they're both kind of on the same level. And they're both just kind of like average or above average. So it's hard for me to say that Call of Duty games are for the most part truly below average. Because it's fucking Call of Duty, dude. It's a blockbuster franchise. They have like $500 million to make the games with. So, you know, I feel like people who go on and on about how COD is so terrible are like... come on, man, you really gotta broaden your horizons a little bit. There are truly bad games out there, you know? Like, for the most part, which we'll get into it. For the most part, these COD games, as much as you might like or might dislike, you know, the futuristic exosuit combat, it at least fucking works, which is more than you can say about a lot of games today. These games launched with, like, very little problems. They were complete packages. Now, this is when we started seeing the deterioration of map design, sure, but it made up for that by letting you skip lanes. So these games were a breath of fresh air for the simple fact that you could just lane hop. So you know how people hate the 3-lane design? Well, what if, instead of just 3 lanes, the 3 lanes were interconnected at like 2 different points to where people can cut through them? Well, now you're introducing map design elements that we've never really seen before. Instead of it just being a 3-lane fest, you're starting to actually provide options. Like, maybe I'm going down the middle lane because it's the shortest and closest to the bomb site, but I don't see anyone, and because I took the shortest route, which is the most risky because that's where people are most likely to be, but the team, they all went around to go to like B site or whatever, I can now jump across and I've successfully flanked them before they even hit the bomb site because I took the shortest and riskiest path and I'm allowed to hop lanes. That creates a very interesting dynamic for the most part. And sure, there was like, I forget the name of the assault rifle, like it's like the ACR or whatever, and sure, it was busted, and sure, the supply drops fucking suck, just on the whole, but like, these games are overhated because, do you know what's funny about these games? The audience who constantly goes on about these games being so good in like the golden era and blah, 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 you guys know how most of us were like 17, 18-ish, like we were in our later teen phases when these games came out. It was literally, I hate to say this, but the backlash these games received for the most part was literally just the culmination of people leaving their angsty teen phases. Because we were really young when these games were coming out, and we were about to enter adulthood when these games were coming out. So it was just a culmination of not getting what we wanted, or at least what we thought we wanted, and just, fuck you, man, this fucking sucks, just remake Modern Warfare 2, just make the same fucking game that we were playing for 10 years straight. God, it's so fucking easy. Just make Modern Warfare 2 5 times in a row, that won't get old. The older I get, the more I look back on this just phase and just cringe super hard. Because the more I can appreciate that there's actually some good design going on here. And if you aren't just like a fucking hater, there's actually a lot that these games, they do more right than wrong, let's put it that way. Okay, now is when we start falling off a cliff. This is the, okay, alright, now is when my hater side starts to come out on some topics here. Okay, World War II sucked. It has one of the worst stories in Call of Duty history. It's bad. It is just, it's not quite woke washed like Vanguard was, and trust me, I cringe saying that just as much as you cringed hearing it. But this is when they started the whimsical fucking, oh, World War II, tee-hee, Saving Private Ryan. Like, this is when they started that whimsical bullshit, and it got really old really fast. You know, like, remember the train scene? It's like a fucking minute-long, like, explosion train crash in, like, a World War II. It's bad. The multiplayer was also not good. This was when I personally recognized Call of Duty will never change and it will never grow up. Because they couldn't they had a chance to do something unique here, but they couldn't. They created, like, you know how people always talk about, like, the bad guns that come out of the gunsmith system in this game? Yeah, it's like that because they, God forbid, they cannot imagine people playing the game without an optic and, like, the things they become accustomed to. This is also when you have to recognize that the Call of Duty community has fully gone off a cliff. This is the point of no return. The COD community is now full of 30-year-old dad gamers who have been playing it since fucking COD 2. And 24-year-old, like, tryhards who want to cling on to the glory days and tell themselves that they're really good because they were good at Modern Warfare 2, even though they didn't learn any fundamentals of COD. They just fucking ran around with noob tubes and shotguns and were like, yeah, I'm the hot shit. And now you have a new generation of kids that are super tryhardy. Like, you have now to contend with all three target audiences being at a critical mass. And it really shows in World War II's design. They couldn't give us World War II era guns that were not effectively just modern M4s. because people are so accustomed to everything being a modern M4 level of like modularity that not having that stuff. Like, for example, imagine a Call of Duty game where the only weapons with optics were snipers, and snipers were massively nerfed so they were super slow. It would create a fresh and interesting experience and open up new design space. But you'll never fucking see that. You will never in a million years fucking see that. This game could have been their attempt to try to innovate, and no, this was the point when they lost passion, and they were like, fuck it, just make the same game over and over again. Black Ops 4, I am not pissed that, like, I'm not one of those people who throws a hissy fit that the game didn't have a campaign, because guys, let's be honest, past the year 2016, having any kind of serious political commentary that could genuinely offend people because it is just telling the raw truth that a lot of people who are immersing themselves in a war fantasy like power trip game, they don't want to hear. We are past the point of games like that coming out. I'm sorry, we just aren't. And it really shows with you know, COD, with the story modes now. I'll have more to say when we get to this. Anyway, so the lack of story mode is it's a bummer, but it's a whatever bummer for me. The zombies was pretty bad. This is when zombies decided to lock itself in as like, all right, we are Easter egg only. You know, we are the only audience we are going to cater to are people who want to spend an hour and a half watching, you know, like, dude, let's put it this way. The Easter eggs for the maps in this game, the tutorials are like fucking an hour and a half long. And your first time doing it, you might spend like 3 hours reasonably. You're gonna spend like 2.5 to 3 hours your first time, like realistically. You know, so they decided that the only zombies audience they were going to cater to were people who wanted to watch a 7-hour long lore video and like a multi-hour tutorial on exactly how to play the map, instead of people like me who just kind of wanted to play the game. So this is where zombies really lost its appeal to a lot of people, myself included. And the multiplayer in this game was just kind of whatever. It wasn't super spectacular, it wasn't super bad. It didn't have the lane, like, manipulation that these games did. It still had the garbage specialist. So, like, it didn't have any of the good advanced movement tech and map design that these games provided. It had the garbage overpowered specialist system that drags this game down. And this is also when they started leaning hard into the microtransactions, which absolutely ruined the vibe and the visual aesthetic of the game. Alright, I'm gonna put a timestamp for this because I'm sure people are interested. They're not necessarily interested in hearing about these games. This is what people want to hear about. I know there is a vocal group of people who think that this game belongs here. I think you are delusional scrubs who need to fucking get good. Frankly. But just genuinely. Modern Warfare 2019 specifically is the peak of new COD. This game, I don't want to call it S tier. Is it better than Modern Warfare 2? Is the question for me. Because that's a hard one. Because there's no denying this game is really fucking good. When this game was brand new, it had a bit of a campfest problem because they actually took a risk and made a Call of Duty game like no other. And people had to readjust. And I really respect that. By the way, camping is a low skill strategy for the most part. Not to say that it's cheap or anything, or that you even shouldn't do it. Even if you're a really high skill player, there is a time and a place to implement it. But it is fundamentally easier to camp than it is to try and cut corners, run around, and shit. This game had so much movement tech because of the new systems, and so much new just getting used to, that a lot of people from this era of COD, they just couldn't fucking adjust to it, man. It was, ironically enough, This game requires 10 times more skill to play. I'm sorry, but if you think running around in Modern Warfare 2 with like your noob tube or your AA-12 or your like 0.4 second time to kill around a corner, like holding an angle on like high rise and killing people as they leave spawn, or, you know, like just chopper gunning people for 12 kills to get your nuke. I'm sorry, man. If you think that takes skill, you're fucking delusional. You're just telling yourself that because it was low enough on the skill totem pole that you could do it, so it made you feel good. When you played a game that was actually somewhat balanced with competitive play in mind, to where you actually have to be good at the game and good at games in general to be good at it, you got fucking washed. That's just the reality. I'm sorry, that's just the reality. This is like taking someone from like auto combos in like easy mode, story mode in a fighting game, and then dropping them against like a diamond rank player. You can tell real fast who understands the game and who's just, you know, who's playing a strategy versus who's playing the game, is a good way to put it. So anyway, the gunsmith system is absolutely fucking amazing. The balance is reaching the point where I think the game is so balanced it's actually kind of bland, and things that are imbalanced stand out really, really hard. So we're almost at the level where balance is becoming a problem, where it's actually too balanced to be fun. But the movement tech, dude, this game allowed you to schmoove on people so fucking hard. You watch someone who's really good at Modern Warfare 1, like 2019, versus your typical player. And then you realize that the skill ceiling in this game is way higher than like any other COD to put to the like up until this point. And I don't know, I think that is something worth admiring. Also, the gunsmith system allowing you to create a loadout that is, you know, perfectly tailored to what you want to do, I also think is really underrated. Like, for example, this game rewards thinking very heavily. Like, for example, having a loadout with smokes and thermals to start off a round to try and pick off some early kills, really solid. Then when people start changing around, you go onto your loadout with explosives to try and punish people who are being greedy and not taking bomb squad. Then when people go back into bomb squad, you swap into your more standard play loadout. But that's the thing. The average COD player, they don't want to do that. They don't even want to think about video games on that level. They want to turn the game on. They want to pick up the one gun they enjoy that they think is like OP. They want to go in, run around, kill people, and that's that. And God forbid they have a negative KD when doing it. They're going to fucking throw a fit and talk about how horrible the game is. Whereas this game rewards learning the little nuances of the gunsmith, learning strategies that synergize, and actually swapping your loadout throughout the game to try and counterplay people's, like, their swaps. This game is just really a solid package. Oh, also the campaign was pretty good. Cold War kind of falls short of Modern Warfare 2019 because it came out so soon after it. It's just a DLC, effectively. Now, you're going to notice a trend amongst these games. They're going to just kind of progressively get worse than the one before them. Because they have this absolute fucking curse of being... Here, let me just get this out of the way. I can't quite say this is F. But, alright, let me explain myself. These games progressively just get worse, and honestly, is it as bad as COD 4? Not really, because it's basically, in this, I would rather play the, yeah, okay, you know what? Not only does this, you know, for the sake of the narrative, but I also genuinely think these are fair rankings as well. So it just kind of tells a story as well. There is one curse that these games all share. It is that they are so heavily monetized. They can't just cut ties, drop the next game, and have it be its own thing. There's also a drama surrounding all right. Let me tell the story of the last, 4 years of Call of Duty, because it is a genuinely depressing story. So we started with this. It was really good. The cosmetics weren't insane yet. The game had a had a theme, a vibe. The gameplay was balanced enough that it was fun to play and competitive, but wasn't so balanced that everything was samey, and that there was like the one outlier that just dominated fucking everything. The maps were not... People who go on about how bad modern maps are, I agree, some of them are real. There's more stinkers than there ever used to be, but at the same time, like, if you think the reason you would perform poorly in new CODs versus old CODs is because the maps are just so much worse, again, you're just a fucking delusional, egotistical scrub. The maps are fundamentally different, but, like, okay, for example, a lot of people's favorite map is Terminal. Is Terminal well designed? Fuck no, not really. For the most part, it's really not. Like, half of the map, it's a fun map, it's just not a super well balanced map. But that's the thing. I don't think something has to be well designed and balanced to be fun. I think Terminal is a map that prioritizes being fun, albeit imbalanced, over a hyper balanced map like... I don't even... off the top of my head, know like what the most COD balanced map is. There's a few contenders for that. But anyway, the curse. Cold, because of this shit, Warzone being the real moneymaker, the multiplayer and the campaign took second fiddle to Warzone. And that's a big fucking problem. Like, that is a glaring issue. And the reason why that's a glaring issue... Man, the reason why this is a glaring issue is because not only does it make the games massive, this game is like 270 gigabytes. It's like the largest game ever released. First off. Second off, it means that there is just this constant malaise that hangs over every release where, oh, well, Warzone's the actual moneymaker, so we gotta keep people's skins and shit, and we have to keep guns. Dude, you know, in like this game, like in Warzone, there's like fucking like 200 guns, right? Because they just kept, instead of deleting things, they just kept adding and transferring and adding. You know, it's like everything in this game transferred into this game, and then they had to add a whole game's worth of new stuff on top of it. Then all of this shit transferred into this shit, and then they had to add a whole game's worth of stuff on top of it. So it has led to this just messed sandbox where, you know, you want to use an SMG, there's like fucking 20 SMGs, you know, and it's like, Jesus Christ, dude. So, like, it's impossible to have things be well-designed or balanced because you got 20 weapons from in the same category from across, like, 4 years of game design. So unless you're telling me, and that's the other thing. So the fact that you can have weapons from Modern Warfare 2019 and Modern Warfare 3, are you telling me that the design principles and ethos of the game literally hasn't budged in 4 years? Really? That sounds really shitty and stale, don't you think? I also want to talk about the matchmaking, because matchmaking fucking sucks. Let me try to find it real quick. Hold on. Blizzard patent to matchmake players with people who spend money. And I think this fucking is a huge part of what killed the game. This shit right here. Activision has started implementing a matchmaking system where two things are taken into account. How much money... It is provably factual, by the way. The more money you spend on Call of Duty, the easier lobbies you get. Because you will get matched with new players who tend to use weapons that you own multiple cosmetics for to try and, like, you know, socially engineer them into buying a cosmetic themselves. That is a provable, factual thing. First off. Second off, oh, dude, MMR. The hidden MMR is not inherently a problem. The problem is just how soft people are about it. Do you know how cool Call of Duty would be if it showed your MMR? That way you could see yourself, like, every casual match, you either stood to gain or lose some MMR. You know, let's say you're the anchor. You know, you have 1500 MMR. Because the way the matchmaking system generally works in Call of Duty is it buckets everyone's MMR together. And then, so let's say one team, let's say the goal is to have 5,000 MMR on a team. Well, your team's bucket is you at like 2,000 MMR, and then like the rest are players that have like 1,000 or less MMR. The other team is everyone on that team is 1,500 MMR. For the most part, you're gonna get stomped, even though technically the MMR total is the same. Then you factor in that it's willing to tweak the system for how much you spend money. And I personally got to experience this, by the way. I remember I was playing the new Modern Warfare 2 when it was new. And I remember I was reaching a point where I was starting to plateau and get like 1.0 KDs. Now you might say this is just luck or conjecture, but with that pattern in mind, I dropped like $50 just as a test, bought a couple cosmetics. My next like 15 games, I all averaged a 1.5 to like 1.7 KD. And then it just went back down. And I don't know if this is just some like schizo paranoid. I got incredibly lucky. It just so happened to line up the matchmaking shit. But nah, dude, like, I swear to God, with that pattern in mind and my own personal experience, you cannot convince me that spending money gives you easier matches. Second off, the MMR system, this is my favorite part about the new generation of Call of Duty players, like the whiners. Guys, the matchmaking tries to pit you up against players that for the most part are around your similar skill level. Which I don't think is a bad thing. I just don't. I'm sorry. People really self-report that they have like absolute loser scrub mentalities for just everything in life. People love to say it's not that deep, bro, it's just a video game. But it's like, the prospect is you are now being matched relatively fairly instead of just being thrown into genuine random lobbies where you're just gonna go on a tear and just get like a 5.0 KD like every other game. Now you actually average out to about a 1.0 KD. One point people love to say is like, you can't see your skill improve because your KD doesn't go up. And I think the solution to that is just show your MMR. Just show me the MMR. Straight up. Just show me my MMR. You know, let's say 2,000 is like pro player level. You know, if I'm like 12, let's say everybody starts at 1,000. The average is like 950. Pro players are at like 2,000 plus. If I'm at like 1,200 and I see that like over the course of 3 months it goes up to like 1,250, I can see that I've improved. But that's the problem. When you're making a game for mainstream people, you have to absolutely cater to snowflakes. And yes, I literally just internally, like, my face scrunched up saying that. But I'm sorry, but it's fucking true. It's fucking true. If you release a game that you expect, like, tens of millions of people to play, and they are not constantly being rewarded and told that they're good, or, like, you're not stroking their ego, they will throw a fit, they will stop playing. It is a provable fact that the average person is driven by ego and nothing else. And the average person, you know, the Dunning-Kruger effect, the average person doesn't know shit about shit, but they think they know a lot about their hobby. Like, the average Call of Duty player probably would, if you had to give yourself an overall rating from 0 to 100, I think the average Call of Duty player would put them as, like, an 80 plus rating overall. When, you know, like, you're not. I'm sorry, dude, but if you're, like, just the average guy complaining about matchmaking and shit, your probably overall rating is, like, 45 or, like, 50. I'm saying this as someone who actually won money, like, in the 4 digits playing Call of Duty. So I'd say my overall is probably like 65, and I won thousands of dollars over the decades playing these games. So you, person whose only experience is maybe just trashing some lobbies online, and that's it, your overall rating is probably barely average. If that. It's just people getting smacked with the realization they're not as good as they think they are, but they just refuse to accept that, so they blame the game. What else do I want to say about these games? Also, the fucking microtransactions are just insane. Like, these games feel more like they're just stores with a Call of Duty game stapled onto it, and the game is an afterthought. Oh yeah, I should talk about the campaign as well. The campaign's got progressively worse. Oh yeah, there's another part to this Call of Duty story that I wanna tell. And why I have a personal fucking hatred for this game. I fully bought into this game because I was digging it for the most part. But then, They announced that they were going to break the yearly development cycle of COD, and they were going to give this game extra time in the oven with a Season 2 DLC. But then they decided it would be more profitable to axe that and turn that Season 2 DLC that would have given the game like an extra 2 years of life, and they just converted it into this. Which is why this game feels so rushed and ramshackled, because it is. They rug pulled me for the last time with this game. I'll be honest with you. I haven't bought this game. I've kept up with it. I still watch CDL and stuff. I still talk to some of my friends who I met on ESL teams and playing in open cups and stuff. Like, I've kept up with the game. But fuck you. The fact that they promised us, like they borderline, like in interviews were like, yes, we are not going to just release another COD game. Then they fucking did it anyway. That was the last straw for me. Because at that point, you have reached Activision, Blizzard, and Ubisoft levels of scumbag. And I know it's funny saying Activision, Blizzard levels when talking about Activision, but you know what I mean. Like, you've reached EA level of fuckery now. Because that was exactly what COD needed, was a break from the, like, 2 yearly release schedule. It needed some time to breathe, really just give, like, a solid 4 years to let the game cook. And then they just took it away. Because that was Activision publicly announcing that releasing a bad, buggy game is better than releasing a good game, because we can make more money just pumping games out faster and then milking people with microtransactions. Because the average gamer is so stupid, entitled, and has no impulse control, they'll fucking buy it anyway. That was basically Activision saying, we're done. We are never going to attempt to make a good game again. We will never try anything different. We are just going to constantly pump out the same game where your skins transfer and shit, and just give us money, please. I want to talk about Vanguard. Vanguard offends me because of the story. The story is so fucking bad in this game. It is the worst Call of Duty story by a mile. It also has the worst zombies by a mile. Okay. Let me collect my thoughts on this one, because this game is the worst Call of Duty of all time. You cannot convince me otherwise. This game was mega broken on launch. Servers constantly not working. Fucking the store worked though. Constant laggy games. Crashing left and right. This is one of the most technically broken CODs ever launched. This was also the point of no return for the microtransactions, because that's when this shit started. But this story offends me. Do you remember what I said about World at War's story? How any story of war that does not leave you, like, walking away shocked and depressed doesn't do it justice? Vanguard is perhaps the most happy-go-lucky, woke-washed retelling of, revisionist history I've ever seen. I'm a huge history buff. Let me give you a little, if you've watched this far into the video, let me give you a little bit about myself. Privately tutored, not really a college person, more like a private education kind of guy. I have a huge love for history. I could, effectively a political science major, minor, economics minor, ooh, the fucking dreaded combo. So things like history, politics, economics, I have a deep, passionate love for those topics. I could literally talk your ear off for days straight if the topic is something to do with the economy, politics, or history. Vanguard tells basically a fake story about real people and completely disrespects them. And it does it in a way that personally pisses me off. There is a trend amongst history now. And yes, I know, oh, look at this fucking MAGA retard complaining about woke people, yuck, yuck. Just hear me out on this one. Trust me, I don't use the word woke often, but this game takes the story of This game does not tell any real history. This game takes stories about real people and then embellishes them for the express purpose to make minorities seem powerful. You might say that is just racist. Why? How could you say that? This is a game that features a fucking... No, I'm sorry, that was Battlefield 5. Oh, God. No, we're not getting into that. This is a game that features one of the rare black battalions of World War II. But in world... This... Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts. I know this is really sloppy. There is this trend in recent memory. It was really bad in like 2020, but it's still around, but it's not nearly as bad, where people would comb through the history of something, an invention, an event that happened. They would find the one black guy, the one minority who contributed like 1% to the project. And they'd be like, here's the secret history whites don't want to tell you about how the blacks actually did this thing that you know. Like, hold on. I'm sure I can look this up. Unknown black inventions, or like things you wouldn't known. Yeah, okay, right here. This is literally what I'm talking about right here. 120 things you didn't know were created by black inventors. Gas mask, then mailbox, blood bank, traffic light, fucking refrigerated trucks. None of this was made by black people. None of it. They contributed, and yes, you should acknowledge their contributions. That is totally fair. But they didn't invent it. They helped. They contributed some of the research that would then go on. And yes, I understand that in this period of history, black people were incredibly treated unfairly. And I am sure that the white inventors took their research without crediting them and said it was their own. I have no doubts in my mind that happened. I'm fully on board with that. However, when you read these stories about like, oh, here's how a black man invented the refrigerated truck, it's like, so basically a team of white scientists did literally all of the work, but there was this one black guy 50 years beforehand who theorized that you might be able to do this, and that's how he was actually the creator of this. They will comb through hundreds of fucking like documents relating to an invention so they can find the one minority, woman, black, Italian, whatever the fuck, and then claim it as this minority invention, even though their contribution was super small. Again, I do think that we should go back in history and look through overlooked contributions to it by minorities. Because yes, until fairly recent history, anything a black man did, like for American contribution, until like the 70s or 80s, even then, that's like, it's not guaranteed, was almost certainly overlooked and effectively appropriated. Yes, okay, that's true. I'll give you that. Now, the reason why I bring all that up is because that is exactly what they did with the Vanguard story. They combed through stories of World War II to find real, like, genuine heroes that were minorities that were able to serve. Then they took their story and embellished it to make it seem like they're fucking god-level Terminators. There's like a scene where it's like 5 black guys in like a tank, and they like fucking like fend off the entire like Third Reich advance on their own. Like, okay, I understand the person writing this feels white guilt, and they're like, oh my god, black people, please, I'm sorry, I'll pay reparations. I'm sorry for what my ancestors did to you, black people, please, you're so amazing. I understand that is the mentality of the person who writes these kind of stories. But it is so disgusting and disrespectful to the people that were actually there. Because when you do that, first off, you make war seem cool. You make it seem like, oh, the sacrifices of these black people were in vain. Look at how much more they did than their white counterparts. When I guarantee you, if you talked to any of those African Americans who served in those battalions, if you talk to any of them, they would say, what the fuck are you talking about? Why are you embellishing the story? I refuse to believe that any of these World War II veterans feel anything but just disgust by these fucking frankly kids, because most of these people are like 20 fresh out of college writing this bullshit, that these kids who do not even comprehend the horrors of war, using their story, piggybacking off of them being minorities to try and tell diverse and empowering story. I think they would so much. I honestly, here's a fucking nuclear hot take to delusional people on like Twitter. I think if you actually asked the people who these people who served, they would tell you they would want the genuine racism that they had to face to be represented. The best way to make people not racist is to expose them to racism. You want to make a fucking white teenage boy not yell racial slurs? Show him what that actually does to people. If you stop coddling people and show them how horrific these events actually are, then you will watch as a lot of bigotry just fucking melts away. And I'm talking actual bigotry, by the way, not like what is considered bigotry online. Like, oh, you said this black stereotype that exists statistically for a reason, so someone lived up to it and you pointed that out. I'm talking like, some guy who would just stop a black guy and be like, F you, N-word, go back to Africa, you fucking worthless N-word, blah, 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 blah. I'm talking like that. Because people are generally empathetic if they are willing to understand the person they're talking to. And, I hate these disingenuous revisionist history. I fucking hate it. Because this game, when a black person dies in this game, it's like a fucking cutscene. They play the sad music, oh man, I can't, why would Whitey do this to us? Meanwhile, that same guy just got done getting off an MG turret, mowing down 30 fucking white Germans because, oh, they're Nazis, who cares? They're dehumanized. When the reality is, it's fucking horrific. It's fucking horrific for both people. It is a horrific thing to bleed out and die in war, just like it's a horrific thing to go cut down 30 guys with a machine gun. But when this game tackles that topic, this game features scenes of, like, one of the black characters blowing up, like, a Panzer, and he's like, hell yeah, fuck Nazis, bro! But then when he gets shot in the stomach and there's, like, nothing you can do because that's a fatal injury, everyone's like, bro, why would they do this, man? The whitey, they treat us like cannon fodder, bro, it's so bad. It's like, you just cheered on the death of, like, 10 people! You just watched 10 people burn to death and cheered! Like, what? These people are psycho! You are portraying them as fucking psychopaths! One of the most powerful messages of war is how generally good people can turn into heartless bastards so fast. Why do you think the most legendary Vietnamese war movies are all anti-war? They all show scenes of horrific death, and there's usually a character. I'm thinking of Full Metal Jacket here. You remember that scene in Full Metal Jacket where a guy gets sniped and, like, it pans to all the squad members and it shows all the different reactions? Because it shows people through various stages of war. The guy who just showed up is, like, crying. He can't believe what he's seeing. He just lost his innocence, like, completely. Then you get to, like, Animal or, like, Mom or whatever. I forget the guy's name. Like Wildcat Mom or whatever. And he's like, damn, sucks to be him. Because that guy is an example of an awful person who craves off the warfare and the violence. He loves hurting people. Like the scene in Saving Private Ryan where the guy could have saved his best friend, but he just froze up. Because war is fucking horrible. You will watch people that you lived with fucking suffer and die in the most horrifically imaginable ways, and it will alter you to your very core. But then, because Vanguard is revisionist fake history, they do not portray these minority groups as people at all. They portray them as fucking superhumans with no emotions who practically get off on killing Nazis. Because it's like a self-insert for the writer. They wish they could, like, go bash that Trump person that they think is a fucking raging Nazi. So instead of, actually doing anything useful, they write these, like, fake stories that are based off real events, but then they embellish them to the point where it's like, oh my god. To me, I think it's irresponsible to try and sell a game like this to impressionable kids. Because you're basically saying that as long as your fellow man doesn't believe socially acceptable politics, it's okay to cheer for their death. Which I think any war, anything, any media that covers war that tries to get that kind of messaging across, I think it is just fundamentally irresponsible and shows that the people writing it have absolutely no business writing a war story. Okay, anyway, the fucking multiplayer sucked too. It wasn't just buggy, it also, like, I don't even want to talk about this game anymore. This game is fucking garbage. Most people put this game in F on their own lists. So this isn't just like, oh, racist Tanner, mad that fucking black people are shown in a positive light. Ah, shut up. Fucking Kobe Bryant is one of my heroes. Shut up. And it's just like, alright, whatever. This is another old COD. I forget which one this is exactly based off the box art. But these original old CODs, apart from, like, the very first one. Actually, I think this is the first one. I can't, you know, they all literally have the same fucking box art. I'm sorry. They're all, it's hard to tell them apart. The first one is D tier. The second one is like, you know, the second one is like C tier. The third one is B tier, and big red one is A tier. And I didn't, you know, I don't have any memories of these other ones. Warzone. I don't feel qualified to talk about this. I have never really played a battle royale game. I played PUBG when it was new, and it was like the new craze. Like the first couple weeks it came out. I played like 10 hours of that, said, all right, this isn't really for me. I'm not a big fan of this. And I've never played a match of Warzone in my life. So, actually, I think I played one because someone asked me to. But honestly, I don't know if that's just my mind playing tricks on me. So, I don't really feel qualified to talk about these.